recording. Hello, I see everybody making their way in. I give everyone just a minute to join us. We're just at the top of the hour this Thursday. All right, Jennifer says happy Thursday. I see some familiar names. Well, I am so excited for this month's Behind the Title. I'm Amy O'Grady, the Executive Director for Women in HVACR, and I can't wait for you to meet our guest, Blanca Beauchamp, and she is a contractor here in the state of Florida, in my backyard. But before we go too far, I want to just remind you that this is part of Women in HVACR's commitment to bringing more women contractors to the head of the table. And we really couldn't do that without the support of our sponsors. So before I hand it over to Blanca, I want to introduce you to our sponsor, GoodLeap. Sarah met with them earlier this week, and we have a little video that we would like to share. So if you would give me just one moment, I'm going to get that set up. And here we go.
Hi, Erica. I want everybody to meet Erica Leonore. She is with GoodLeap. They've been sponsors with Women in HVAC for quite some time now. Really, really proud sponsors, very engaged, very active. They did come to conference. They had a booth, lots of fun, lots of activity. GoodLeap is really special to Women in HVAC, and I'm super excited to have Erica Leonore present to you on behalf of GoodLeap. Erica, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. I love to be here with you and all the women in HVACR. This is such a pleasure. And yes, many of you have probably seen me around with GoodLeap for a little while. And if you don't know who GoodLeap is, we like to say, take the good leap or become a good leaper. You know, we like that kind of stuff. We are financing. And sometimes people think financing is like, ooh, it's a bad F word. But no, financing is fun. And it's a great way for contractors, as well as when you partner with manufacturing distribution, it's a way to help each other all grow your business to make more sales. And, you know, there's definitely lots of consumer financing companies out there. And I want to just share with you some of the things that GoodLeap can do to help you grow your business and with your marketing strategy and your sales strategy and being able to help your homeowners really grow in providing a great customer service. And so when you think about what the role of financing is, that some people think that you only offer low monthly payments and financing to homeowners who ask for it, that you wait until the end of the sale to be like, oh, customer doesn't like my price. So you quoted something for $10,000 and then your customer's like, ooh, that's too much. And then you bring up financing. Oh, well, we have a company you can apply for a loan, right? That's almost really too late in the process to let homeowners know that you have affordability options. And so this role of financing, I believe, is a key factor in the entire company, in the entire business, that everyone should understand and be on board of how you are able to offer affordability to all of your homeowners. So this is what's really cool is, you know, when you think about this customer experience, where does it start? Well, it starts with your website and marketing and, you know, how people are able to find you. I would absolutely encourage you to think about that customer journey, and we go from marketing, and then how can you implement financing from your office and your sales for CSRs? And then from there, how do you implement financing for the people in the field? It's this journey that customers go through, and there's different ways that you can position it. Now, we're not here to just say, oh, use financing, raise your prices $1 million and like totally like ruin homeowners' experiences. That's not what it is. What financing does is it helps you become affordable for whatever it is that you are offering, whatever type of home improvement upgrade. We're talking about HVAC, but this is also like repairs or indoor air quality or ductless. You know, there's so many different things Many people here offer plumbing or electric or maybe roofing or generators. Whatever your product is, you want to make it affordable. That's all. And affordability can come in low monthly payments. And so that's exactly what you are technically selling, is affordability. And for whatever price you charge for any of these things, if you can make it affordable, people tend to choose you. And we have seen so many times where a homeowner applies for financing with a contractor, and they are more likely to move forward with that contractor if they have a good experience with financing and filling out a loan application and getting approved and having that support. And so it's just a really great way to think about it, where, oh, it's just not going to be the leftover, you know, as my backup plan, but this is becoming part of your full strategy and sales opportunity in your contracting business. So we want to be proactive with it. Now, here's 7 moves to supercharge your sales for contractors. Number 1, focus on approvals. A lot of times people want to get into the weeds of like rate sheets, and let me compare this rate sheet to this rate sheet to this rate sheet. And really what you're doing is a disservice to yourself, because every financing company looks at homeowners and consumers differently. You want to really focus on how can we get the most people approved and as easy of a process as possible. Because when all is said and done, once again, you are in control of your pricing. So whatever that rate sheet looks like, you're always in control of that. What's really difficult to control is how many people get approved, because once again, everybody approves people a little bit differently. And so with GoodLeap, we have a lot of great ways that we are homeowner friendly. We want to make a great customer experience for you to your homeowner, and to get people approved all the ways legally, morally, and ethically, of course, but we want to help them be able to get approved, to get everything affordable from what you're selling. Introducing that financing early. Once again, let's get some marketing up on your website, get a website link, get those CSRs talking about it and offering some bullet points of, hey, you know what, we have a great financing company that we work with. I'd be happy to send you an application. Specifically for GoodLeap, the applications just to fill it out is a soft credit pull, and there's no application fee. So for really homeowners, it's just a sneak peek to see what you qualify for. Wanting to keep it simple. You know, a lot of times I see contractors offering 15 different plans for customers, and it gets really complicated for, once again, your CSRs, your technicians, your comfort advisors to know what to offer people and to know how it affects your bottom line. And so keeping your plan simple, having maybe 3 to 5 options is a great way to help everybody get involved with financing in an easy way. Offer financing beyond the installs. A lot of people don't realize that you can offer financing for repairs or some side projects that you might be doing, or I want to install this ductless system in my garage, and people don't realize that you can finance that kind of stuff. People don't know that you can finance all types of ductwork and building a home efficiency system for your homeowners, right? Like there's a lot of different ways. As long as it is residential, for GoodLeap, we can finance that in HVAC. And so just think about how you can do that beyond the install. Lead with low monthly payments. The last thing people want to get hit with is the sticker shock of, oh my gosh, this is $20,000. Oh, but you can have it for $150 a month, right? It's almost like this consolation prize. That's not what this is. If you say, hey, we can install this home efficiency upgrade, like you get all of the best, the bells and whistles, what people really want if they can afford it. And if it's $150 a month, yes, I want the best of the best because I can afford that. And so leading with that low monthly payment can be a way for people to really see how I can get the best for my home. Many of you know I have had some health challenges. I had cancer. I had to go through a lot of things. And what's interesting is when I got cancer, we didn't know what triggered it. Doctors still don't know. It was a type of cancer that has no cause. It just happens from what they say. But for me, I really think that something caused it. And it could be the air I breathe. It could be the water I drink. It could be maybe the radon that was in the basement growing up. Like, I don't know. But I truly believe in the power of having clean air and clean water, because now in my home, we have filtration, we have the indoor air quality stuff. We are having those things that can really affect health, because I become so focused on health. And so I truly do know that when you offer these types of products, people will buy them because it changes their lives. And I want to be as healthy as possible because I want to be here for my kids and live life as long as possible and to the fullest. And so, people don't offer indoor air quality. Why? Like we should. It makes a difference. And so, training your CSRs to talk about financing for all these different products that you offer, and then work with your financing provider. We want to make sure that, it's just not something where you have a financing person you fill a loan out every now and then. You can really develop a good relationship with your financing provider to provide support on loans, websites, marketing, all of the talking points that you might need. It's just, if you have that relationship with your financing rep, you can really build a great customer experience. And so not only is financing awesome, there's lots of cool things that GoodLeap does to accept payments. You can actually accept credit cards and e-checks and Venmo and PayPal all through the GoodLeap app. So we've really become this payments processing platform in addition to financing. So if you haven't checked into that and you are a GoodLeaper and you'd like to have more for yourself on that, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to help. And I wish I could go on and on and on, Sarah, but here's my contact information. Let me know if you want to chat more about GoodLeap or any of the things of women in HVAC, and I'd be more than happy to be involved.
What a great presentation. Thank you for such good information, Erica, on what exactly GoodLeap is and what it can do for contractors, in their finances and in their business structure. We appreciate you again for being a great sponsor of our organization, and we look forward to another great year next year. Thank you for the presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation.
That was awesome. I loved hearing from Erica. She's one of our previous board members, and hopefully a few of you on the call got to see her at conference.
Stop recording. Hold on.
Uh-oh. I think it's still going.
Did I stop recording?
All right. Well, now what everyone has been waiting for this evening, I get the pleasure of introducing you to Blanca. Blanca leads the human resources team of Conditioned Air. It is a Florida-based HVAC contractor. Her experience spans from managing the day-to-day peer operations to building and nurturing the culture that drives engagement within her company. She is developing high performance at the individual and organizational level. And outside of work, she is a mentor with women in HVACR, and she actively supports youth within the trades. But I could keep going on with her long resume, but I want you to hear from Blanca herself, so I'm going to hand it over.
I'm super excited to be here, Amy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to everybody. As Amy mentioned, I'm the VP of HR for Conditioned Air and have been with the company for about 5 years. Conditioned Air serves Southwest Florida, Marco Island to Sarasota. Our focus is making sure our customers are comfortable. We're people first. So my role in HR, obviously, we want to make sure we have a staff and team that's ready and eager to serve our customers and really have happy fulfillment from the front end to the back end of the house. So super excited to kind of have you guys dive in a little bit with me and learn a little bit more of, what I'm doing and really what has driven me to the trades.
Wonderful. Well, Blanca, people see your success today, but can you tell us about one of your first big challenges you faced in the industry?
Absolutely. There was a couple things. One, I joined the industry in the time of COVID, so that was just unique in itself. But, coming into a new environment, an industry I've never operated in, there was a lot of excitement and eagerness to really just jump in and really take everything in. I'm the kid that wanted to know why. When your parents said something, I'd be like, well, why? Well, why? That kind of continued into my adulthood. So what I love about the industry, there's so many opportunities to really dig in and understand why things are the way they are. But also when we look at process improvement, I'm looking at why was it established the way it is and how can we improve on it. So obviously going in, I'm assessing all of the processes and, I'm a likable person. I'm like, I got this. There's no problem. They're going to be like, she's kind, she's friendly. and it did not go as planned whatsoever. They're saying, well, the person before you didn't do it that way. Why do we even have to change things? I'm just not going to do it. So you can change it, but I'm not going to, follow the process. And in that, assessing, I'm like, I guess what I should have done was really go to the leadership and have them build that initial trust for them to be my partner in communicating with the employees and making sure that, yes, this is somebody who's here on our side wanting to do things so we can improve, versus a stranger who has no idea what we do in our industry, and really encountering those roadblocks.
Now, I know what industry you came from because I also have spent some time there, but for our audience, can you let them know where you spent more of your time before you got into this
Sure.
industry?
So before going into HVAC, I spent a lot of my time in banking and operations and really running the in and outs there. Also, our family business, my family owned a restaurant and really supporting them from an HR function. So you had some front end skilled employees, but in banking, it's a completely different environment, a lot of compliance and adherence that just came second nature. And just having that mindset coming in, I just assumed it was natural for everybody to kind of follow. And that was definitely a challenge coming in. It's like, okay, everything that you've had in your tool belt and thought would work here, you have to really rethink it, because you're going to have to be flexible and adapt and really look at your environment and the people you're supporting and what approach you have to take. And sometimes it was very singular in nature, where I could have 5 different approaches to make sure that the message was received across the entire workforce.
Well, it's wonderful that you could have that vision and that flexibility to do that as a leader. Now, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you have a specific example where you've had to handle a situation where you've been underestimated in that role?
Um, I think for me, when I think about being underestimated, I think it kind of starts with myself, right? I think I underestimate myself a lot. I think being the only senior female leader within the organization, you know, um, I feel intimidated at times, although my peers don't come across that way. And I think, we've talked about it several times, that imposter syndrome. We wonder if we should have a seat at the table. Um, you know, I think when we look at being underestimated, it's hard when someone, if you bring an idea to the table and they don't initially react to it, you start thinking, are they insulting me? Am I being, you become defensive. I'm like, how do I navigate this a little bit better? You want to make sure that you don't react a certain way too. So something that's kind of helped me, as kind of progress in my leadership is, I Stephen Coven's seven habits of highly effective people. In college, I did a whole course on it, but the proactive section of pause, of just waiting, and I think sometimes we perceive that someone's underestimating us, but we react initially. It's just waiting and pausing and kind of just, pushing that button on your forehead to kind of slow down, let your emotions come into control, have your brain relax a little bit. So that way you're able to really hear what's being said. And then if it is, someone that's questioning, um, the plan that one I put in place, it kind of fuels me. I think the biggest thing is someone who says you can't do something, that you're able to kind of come in and show them. And I think a lot of the work that I've done within the community when it comes to recruiting, I think that's really where I think there was maybe doubt of my ability to be able to build those partnerships and really execute on building a pipeline, to where I allowed it to fuel me. And now we have some really wonderful partnerships in the community that they're asking us to have a seat at the table. so proud of that achievement.
That's wonderful. Just having that vision to go out and strategically source the workforce that you know that you need within your company. And that skill set that you're looking for, that you're developing and cultivating, it just sounds wonderful. So, following trends and, on that same, level, what would you say is a trend that's really exciting you right now within our industry and that you kind of want to just see where it takes our industry in the future?
Well, and I think there's a lot, obviously AI is always the thing that kind of comes about. And just when we look at our systems and the things that it's doing there and just tools for our CSRs. But for me, I obviously look at everything from an HR lens, and just speaking to just, those community partnerships. The one thing we know is we have a population of people that aren't working, you know a big sector of that is your 16 to 24. So when we look at our industry and the people that we need to come into it, it's really within that age range, right? So everyone's focused on how do we improve the skills gaps. Everyone's talking about, hey, how do we get shop class back in the high schools? How do we get people really learning about the skilled trades earlier than high school? Because really, we're a little bit too late if we're having the conversation in high school, right? We need to have the conversation, as early as elementary school, but really in middle school, having that exposure to really understand the different opportunities within a career path. I think is extremely important. And it's something that I'm really proud of being in the state of Florida, because there's so much initiative behind, workforce readiness, just our governor, our Florida chamber. There is a lot of emphasis. And I think as a contractor, they're looking at us to be like, hey, we know this is a problem. Help us understand what you need for us to be able to solve it. So it's something that I'm really excited for. For our industry, there's so much untapped talent out there. So excited to really be able to explore all of that.
Yes, we are definitely spoiled in Florida for those that are unaware. And our Department of Education in Florida also lets you sit in on a lot of their workshops so you can directly give feedback. So if you're not doing that in your state, I definitely ask to be on that list when they have an educational workshop, because there's a lot that we can do as far as giving insight for the trades that sometimes is overlooked because they're just focused on curriculum and that additional college, step placing for children. So I know in Jacksonville, we focus really heavily on the middle school age as far as introducing that skill. So I love hearing that. I have another Floridian working on that as well.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to hear what people say are the trends. And I love that you really focused on the trend of workforce development, because it is something that is so needed within our industry. And sometimes we can get distracted by the glitz and the glitter and the glamour of the, shiny AI tools. But, sometimes it goes down to just really the basics of education within our trade.
absolutely. Our employees want to know how they can grow, and really want a clear path. So having these educational partners to know what's being taught in the classroom, it allows us employers to really know how we can continue fostering that desire of learning, post, school.
I love that. The desire for learning. It happens even in the trades.
Yes.
All right. So, next question. Beyond your title, what defines a great leader to you?
Um, for me is putting myself in their shoes, right? It's that emotional intelligence to know, hey, you know, how are they possibly interpreting what's going on? Um, we need to understand our people. We need to show empathy. Um, I think that's such a critical piece being a great leader. And I think it's something that's underestimated at times. I think it's something that's difficult within our industry, um, to show and share emotion. It's like, it's taboo. You don't do that. We work with our hands. You can't, you don't want to share your vulnerability. I think as a leader, showing your vulnerability to your people shows that they can trust you. And I think it's such an important component. Um, owning your mistakes, right? We shouldn't hide when we make a mistake. I think it's important for our employees to know that they can come to us when they make a mistake because we're able to address it head on. And it probably will save us a lot more money if they feel there's trust for them to come up to us in the beginning instead of the end of whatever the situation might be that they're encountering. Those are two really important things that, really make a great leader, and it's, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's really that simple. And it's a very selfless role being a leader, right? You're not doing it for your own benefit, you're doing it for the benefit of the masses. And I think the biggest example of my success comes when somebody else succeeds and outperforms me. I want to give you everything you need so that you can grow and be beyond whatever I could achieve. I mean, I think that's the biggest compliment. But it takes, patience, empathy, and really being vulnerable and showing that you're a human for someone to trust you enough to let you in and help them really achieve, what they're intended to.
Yeah, it goes back to that people first mindset that you're focusing on as a leader yourself.
Absolutely.
Now I know
I think we froze there for a little bit. Not sure what's going on. Don't want to have any dead space here. So, kind of, can you guys hear me? Okay. We'll see if Amy can hop back on here in a minute, but I'll keep talking anyways. As I was talking about the opportunities of just really working, in our community and really bringing workforce development, introduction to the trades early on, I wanted to touch base on my involvement with the Immokalee Foundation. Immokalee is the rural area agricultural farming community in Collier County, just on the outskirts of Naples, Florida. And the Immokalee Foundation really worked hard at building a program in which they're addressing a lot of the issues within their community. Starting as early as third grade, making sure their students had the right reading skills to be able to pass the third grade, which is a really pivotal year within the school system here in Florida. And then really going into career exploration in middle school, sixth and seventh grade, really spending time, guest speakers coming in. They have various career pathways. Obviously, the construction and engineering is the part that's, aligned with conditioned air as a contractor. But it's learning more than just what jobs. When you think about healthcare, people go to, well, doctor and nurse, and there's so many other opportunities. So what the Immokalee Foundation has done is really exposing these students to other areas within a specific career path. Their eighth grade year, they put together a career action plan where they've decided what career path they're going into. So they present to their parents and the leaders. They've researched what schools, what programs they offer, how much it's going to cost them to go to college, if there's an alternative, to going to a trade school. And they start having that real life exposure in high school. So this past summer, Conditioned Air hosted 2 summer interns who were part of the construction and engineering career pathway. So they spent 120 hours. They spent some time in our warehouse. They spent some time with our new construction team. They spent time with our service technicians, really getting exposure in all areas within the industry. Short window of time, but getting a thank you card from the students saying, hey, I know for sure now that this is the direction I want to go. There's not a question of, okay, on paper it looks nice. No, it's June and July in Florida. They went and spent time outside. The Immokalee Foundation, they built their own learning lab. A builder in our area donated the space, and they built 18 homes. So the students throughout this program are going through every stage of the building process and learning. So HVAC installation, the plumbing, the electrical, the masonry, the roofing. So having a partner like that and really supporting our future workforce, as you can tell, that is the thing that drives me. And it's probably why I've loved this industry so much, because it provides a livelihood for people that they don't know. They don't realize what they can do for their families by getting into the trades.
I love that. How do you spell Immokalee?
It's Immokalee, and hopefully I spelled it right.
I was gonna say, sorry to put you on the spot.
I'm like, I think that's correct. But yeah, it's wonderful. I encourage everyone to go to their website. I think I encourage everybody, like you said, we're lucky to be in Florida, but I know those opportunities exist in other states. And it's learning, okay, how do I get involved? Where do I start? And really, going to your chamber, going to the schools and asking. A lot of them know where it is. They just don't know the partners that they can actually have, as employers. And I think that's really the opportunity we all have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sometimes it's just starting that conversation. And Lisa said the engagement you and your company are doing here is paving the way for the future of kids in the community. Congratulations on such community impact and involvement.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And now that we had the fun internet throwout, I'm back in. We planned for this. We're going to have a little fun with our questions now. What is the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Ironically enough, our conference was built on it. Bet on yourself. I think you bring so much to the table. Stop being shy about it. You are that asset. And I think that is the reminder, that you need, that you have to, the chance you have to take is on yourself. You can control that. You know exactly how hard you're going to work. There's no underestimating that piece. So I would say that would be the best advice I've received, and it's constantly being reinforced.
And we did not pay her to have that.
No, you didn't.
Okay. Now, if you could have dinner with one or any leader, past or present, who would it be?
So this was a hard question. I'm like, man, this is, really hard. So I kind of went back to, as a child, who was that person that I picked to do that biography on? And it was Amelia Earhart. When you think about a time where women were discouraged from being ambitious, that it was taboo to do something that was meant for men, she challenged the norms, and she was determined, and, she was going to prove that her skill and determination, there's no gender, in that, and she was a true symbol of curiosity and courage and just perseverance. And I think that's a great reminder today when we feel like we're alone, in a sea of so many. that, you're here today because you're supposed to be that game changer. It's you who's supposed to be driving the change.
Now, I love that answer, but what are you serving for dinner at this dinner?
Well, if I'm having to cook it, I'm going to cook my favorite meal. My family's Cuban, so it's going to be a breaded steak called bistec empanizado, con gris, which is like your white rice and black beans cooked together, with yuca, which is kind of like a root. It's boiled, and tostones, which is your fried plantains. So that is what we would be eating for sure.
I'm coming to dinner. I'm
And
inviting myself.
it is something I can cook, so we're good.
All right. Well, I don't want to hog all the questions, so we're going to turn it over to our audience tonight. You have the ability to drop comments and questions in the chat, or you can do the Q&A, whatever suits your fancy. We're going to give it just a minute. And Lisa helped us out and put up the Mockley
Awesome.
Foundation website for us. So while we're waiting on some questions, I am going to ask Blanca a question that she can give us, just to give us some time. If listeners remember just one thing from this conversation today, what would you want it to be?
And I think picking back off of the comment and just made, I'm like, you're the change everyone's been waiting for, right? Those things haven't happened because you're the person that's supposed to do it. I think when I'm like, should I respond? Should I answer? Do I stay quiet? When you get that inclination to say something, don't push it down. Don't silence it. Say it. Bring it to the table because it's intended for you to be the one. Don't underestimate your capabilities. Every opportunity is one of learning. It's either positive, negative, but you come away with something. So don't be fearful. Fear is the enemy, and we need to make sure it doesn't stop us from doing great things.
Yeah, and one thing we learned about at conference, we definitely have women in our corner to maybe test the questions on or ask for feedback.
Absolutely.
That was one thing I know resonated on our call earlier today, just that everyone was willing to help and, jump in, and just the camaraderie within our organization is something that can really help eliminate fear when we feel it creeping in. So we have Ashley. She says, I'm starting my own HVAC business and I would love to learn from you. What skills or qualities are you seeing the industry needs most in new hires and even managers?
I go back to that emotional intelligence thing and being selfless. I think understanding where individuals are coming from. I think we can teach HVAC, right? That part is the easy part. So when you're looking to hire somebody, what you want to look at is like, how are they going to engage with your customer? Are they going to treat them with respect? Are they going to treat their peers with respect? Do they have a grit and a desire to learn and grow? I mean, those are things that you're really sourcing through, are not easy to just test. It's through experience, asking behavioral questions and how they respond to certain scenarios. It's what's going to give you that insight. And that's really what makes it a game changer, right? Because someone who's weak in a certain technical skill set, through training, you can improve that. But what makes them who they are? What are they driven by? Those are the things that you want to really, source through and make sure they're a good fit.
And now, Blanca, I know you've studied, human resources for some time before you came in the industry. And earlier, Ashley shared with us in another call that she really just feels like she resonates with that person that fixes things. So, do you have any insight or pointers to help her maybe learn more about the human resources side if she feels she has more of that technical knowledge of the industry?
Absolutely. I think, we have resources all around us. It's just knowing where to go. Within each state, there are your SHRM chapters. So your Society of Human Resources, where they have events. So just in our area, they had a supervisor conference, 1 day seminar, essentially, that you can come in and just learn some skills on how to do performance reviews, or how do you deal with progressive discipline. There's a network when it comes from a human resource perspective out there available for you. And if that's something that's a little bit harder for you to go out and do in person, you're able to go to the SHRM website and sign up for an individual membership, and you have access to policies and procedures and job descriptions and articles. So there's a lot of information out there available to you. And I think the most important thing, and it's something that we do with women in HVACR, is have a mentor. I think that's something that, is a great benefit. I'm a mentee, but I have a mentor myself. Being a senior leader, it's different than what I've done in the past, and it comes with exciting challenges. So having a mentor that I'm able to kind of navigate that with, has been extremely helpful. And then being able to mentor somebody as well, there's so much that you learn through that relationship. But you can establish that within your own business. If you have a technician whose desire in 10 years, 5 years, is to be a supervisor, don't wait until they've at the 5-year mark to connect them with a leader within your organization. Start that early on, so they really understand that selfless attribute that has to come with being a leader.
And I love that advice, because I've always thought of the SHRM, conferences or groups to only be those that have these designations within human resources. I never thought about that as even a resource for an outsider to come in and learn from those experts. So thank you for sharing that. And it is an acronym. So
Yes.
if we need to put that in the chat, or you can email us and we'll get you that as well, Ashley. All right. Are there any other books, courses, or professional groups you recommend?
I'm sure there's tons out there. I will say, I love that we have our book club too. So really look at personal development, let them. I think that's the book I most recently read with Mel. That kind of really, we can't control other people. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think reading that book reminded me that you can't control other people. You only can control you. So, especially when you think about leadership and someone isn't responding the way you would like them to, the person that's going to have to do the change is not them, it's you, because they're not going to be able to adapt. So that book was really helpful in just reminding me that, you can only control what you can control, and kind of putting that into perspective. But I definitely will work on getting a list of books together, and that's something that we can, definitely share. But the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's another one with Stephen Covey that it's been more than a decade, and I still reference that book.
All right. So if we want to keep following your journey and connecting with you, what's the best way for us to do that?
LinkedIn. And then another plug, connecting through our Navigator program and become a mentee or mentor. I can't have a whole bunch of mentees, but the mentors that we have in that program, they're all ready and able and waiting to connect with the mentee to be able to provide them that support.
Wonderful. Yes, you are. I hear you're doing a wonderful job with the mentorship program and the navigators. So, if anyone has any questions, she's definitely the person to reach out to. And any last words of encouragement for the next generation of women in HVACR?
And kind of thought through this, and like you said, I do have a people first mindset. So, just thinking about them, like if you're people first with your employees and your customer, in this industry, I'm like, that's all that's needed. You have that mindset, you can be successful in this industry. I came from banking. How do you correlate that with HVAC? But because we're very focused on the customer and the golden rule, that translates in any industry. So, think about it that way and build your support network, and lean on them. I think that's the most important thing. We don't take chances because we think we have no one to kind of help us. And there's a network and a support of people just waiting for you to reach out, because they're going to be your biggest champion.
That's right. And I was in a group earlier today that said, "Oh, I don't want to make it all about me," but we all take turns, right? Asking for help, giving support, and that's really what it's all about in Women HVACR.
100%. And, little tidbit, I just signed up to go to the conference last year. It was my first one. Uh, Knew Jane lived in my area, and I saw her and I walked up to her, and it's probably the best decision I ever made.
That's a great story. We'll have to keep sharing it on. Well, thank you so much, Blanca. I had a wonderful time. I hope everyone took away a lot from her sharing her story tonight. And just a reminder that, your title may be where you started, but it's your journey that sets you apart. And I thank everyone for going behind the title with Blanca and I, and we can't wait to see you next time in November. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.